Let us go for the greater wing of sphenoid. This is the greater wing of the sphenoid, the larger wing or the greater wing of the sphenoid. The greater wing is called to have the surface. This one is the orbital surface of the greater wing. This one is the orbital surface or the anterior surface of the greater wing. So if we see the greater wing, the anterior surface, what we can see, this anterior surface, it is a orbital surface. Posterior surface or this one is the cerebral surface, and laterally it is the lateral surface of the greater wing of the sphenoid. So it has three surfaces. So this one is a lateral surface of the greater wing of sphenoid. And you see the lateral surface, if you see the lateral surface is divided by a small ridge. See, this one is entirely the lateral surface. This lateral surface is divided by this ridge. In the upper part contributes to temporal fossa, and this lower part it contributes to make the infratemporal fossa. So now, it has surface. If we make the surface greater wing, so greater wing, the surface, it has the orbital surface, it has the lateral surface, and it has a cerebral surface. Lateral surface is again divided by a ridge into upper part and the lower part. The upper part is known as temporal fossa, which contributes to temporal fossa, and lower part it contributes to infratemporal fossa. Now come to the borders. Borders are called as this one. This border is the posterior border. This border is the posterior border, and this border is the lateral border. This border is lateral border, and this border is the posterior border. So we can call it, say, if this is our greater wing of sphenoid, this entirely is our lateral border, and this entirely is our posterior border. So this is starting from the lingula to the tip. This is the posterior border, and from this point to the tip, this is the lateral border. Both the border meets with the projected part, and this projected part is called as the spine of sphenoid. Both the border meets with the projected part. This projected part is called as the spine of sphenoid. This posterior border, it intends to articulate with the petrous part of the temporal bone. The posterior border, it intends to articulate with the petrous part of temporal bone. And you see, this is the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone. This is a petrosal process. So here we have the petrosphenoid ligament. Here we have the petrosphenoid ligament. And on approaching these two parts, it makes the foramen, which has a lacerated margin. So this foramen is known as foramen lacerum. Foramen lacerum. Over this foramen lacerum, it is supported by a cartilaginous plate. And over the foramen lacerum passes internal carotid artery. Over the foramen lacerum passes the internal carotid artery. It is not that internal carotid artery passes through the foramen lacerum. Never. Internal carotid artery, which comes out to the anterior end of the carotid canal. This is a carotid canal in the anterior end. It passes over the foramen lacerum, and it enters in the carotid sulcus. And on side, it makes the sphenopetrosal synchondrosis. Sphenopetrosal synchondrosis it holds in the lower surface, it holds our auditory tube. It holds the auditory tube. Okay. This one is the spine of the sphenoid, where the posterior border and the lateral border meets. Near the spine of the sphenoid, we mix a foramen. This foramen is known as foramen spinosum. Foramen spinosum. Near the posterior border, we can get a oval foramen. This oval foramen is known as foramen ovale. And just beside the lateral sulcus, we get a foramen. This foramen is foramen rotundum. So, three foramina present in allied to the cerebral surface of the greater wing of the sphenoid. This one is foramen rotundum. This one is foramen ovale, oval in shape, and this one is a foramen spinosum, as it is present very near to the sphenoidal spine. So this is the sphenoidal spine, foramen spinosum, ovale, rotundum. And this part of the greater wing of the sphenoid, it makes the margin of superior orbital fissure. This one is our superior orbital fissure. This one is our superior orbital fissure. So let us see in the bones. In the bone, you can see this is a superior orbital fissure. So the cerebral surface is attached above to the superior orbital fissure. On the sides, this is a foramen rotundum. On the side, this is foramen rotundum. You can see well in this side also. This one is foramen rotundum. Here, this is a foramen ovale, and the spine is broken, so you cannot see the foramen spinosum here. Rather, here you can see this one is a foramen ovale, and you can see the foramen spinosum. This is the foramen spinosum. So, foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, foramen spinosum. But where is the foramen lacerum? Only in the sphenoid we cannot see the foramen lacerum. Only in the sphenoid we cannot see the foramen lacerum. When the petrous part of temporal bone comes to meet, when petrous part of temporal bone it comes to meet, then only it makes the foramen lacerum with the lacerated margin. Foramen lacerum with the lacerated margin. Now, who passes through foramen rotundum? The major structure that passes through the foramen rotundum is maxillary nerve. The major structure that passes through foramen ovale is the mandibular nerve. The major structure it passes through the foramen ovale is the mandibular nerve. Mandibular nerve is a sensory branch of the trigeminal nerve, along with the motor branch of trigeminal nerve. Along with the motor branch of trigeminal nerve. These two structures passes through foramen ovale. They have a branch, and this branch passes to foramen spinosum. This is a recurrent branch called nervus spinosus. It passes through the foramen spinosum. So you see, the mother nerve passes through foramen ovale, and the daughter nerve passes to foramen spinosum. This one known as nervus spinosus. This is known as nervus spinosus. Now, if we see an artery, this is the course of artery. This artery who passes to the this one, that is nervus spinosus, is the middle meningeal artery. Middle meningeal artery. And the middle meningeal artery, it has a branch, accessory meningeal artery. This passes to foramen ovale. Accessory meningeal artery passes to foramen ovale. So you see, the mother artery passes to foramen spinosum, daughter artery passes to foramen ovale. So the foramen spinosum and foramen ovale is said to have a mother-daughter relationship. This mother-daughter relationship means mother nerve through oval, daughter nerve through spinosum, mother artery to spinosum, daughter artery through oval. Through foramen rotundum, maxillary nerve, oval, mandibular nerve and motor branch of mandibular nerve, plus accessory meningeal artery. Foramen spinosum is for the middle meningeal artery plus the recurrent meningeal branch from the mandibular nerve. So this is our greater wing of the sphenoid.